Hi everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to be cooking for my Homestead family of 4. Take you along as I make some farm-to-table recipes from scratch cooking. We're going to be talking about trying new things and enjoying the flavors of spring and summer to come. So join me in another video where we cook for my family and I take you along as I do that for the week. I'm super excited about tonight because we're having my family over, and I was just talking to my mom the other day. Now that we have 2 kids and the baby is now eating, I'm like, we're eating for 6 because it's my family is now 4 and my parents is plus 2 and we eat with them a lot. So it's 6 now. So we're having to buy a little more food, which if you have a growing family, you know that feeling of all of a sudden, I need another dozen eggs per week, or I need another half a pound of meat per meal when you kind of turn that corner. So I feel like that's happening, which is really fun, but I'm trying to figure out how to do that because when you buy, I'll buy meat in a 1 pound increment and I'll make 2 pizzas at a time, for example, or I'm just so used to my measurements, so I'm adjusting. But anyway, onto this recipe. This meal that I'm going to make is for having my family over on a Saturday night. It was really hot and sunny where we live, and we could not have asked for better weather, especially for the weekend specifically. And we took our little boat out. We have a little inflatable boat, but we do have a motor that goes with it. So we were on the water, so everyone was really hungry, and I just wanted to have everyone over. I love hosting, and I'm going to talk about that more in a bit, but I just love having people over eating my food. So I am making a chicken breast recipe. Actually, I'm doing chicken breast, I'm doing pizza, I'm doing potatoes and asparagus. So yeah, it's a lot, but you'll see me make all of those. I love making a bunch of small meals. Now, if you have a lot of one type of meat, like a roast, that's a lot of pounds of meat, that will go a long way. But sometimes, I don't know about you, I sometimes only have a bunch of small stuff. So I'm kind of combining everything I have here to make one big meal. So this is my new favorite way to cook chicken, and I can't really say it's new actually, I'm just returning to it, but I tend to do this in the spring and summertime a lot more than the wintertime. It's not a breaded chicken recipe, but it tastes like a breaded chicken recipe. It's taking out the step of actually adding bread to your chicken, and instead I make an egg mixture which is 1 egg and some lemon, and then I make another mixture in a separate bowl, which is einkorn flour and salt and seasonings. And I coat my chicken in the egg mixture first on both sides and then the flour mixture on both sides. And I use einkorn flour. It's just a healthier grain for you, especially when you're not fermenting it. And so we're kind of just eating it right on top of the chicken. But what it does is it creates like a skin for the chicken so that your meat is really moist and it's gonna cook perfectly and it won't be dried. And it adds a little more, just flavor and texture and deliciousness to the meal. So I'm gonna be sauteing those on my skillet with a bunch of butter. And while those are sauteing, I'm making a pizza. Now I had this dough in my fridge previously, so you don't see me making the dough, but during the week, I made just 1 pizza. I think my husband was having lunch elsewhere or something that day. So I was only cooking for me and my daughter, so I only made 1 pizza. But I always make the dough in batches of 2, so I thought I'll just save the second dough. So the second dough is now being used in this dinner. I'm making a plain margarita pizza here with just my sourdough crust, which has been fermenting now in the fridge for a couple days. So it's gonna taste really good, and it always rolls out really nicely when you let it sit like that for a little while. That's part of the reason why I love sourdough and making your own doughs is you can just put them in the fridge and then pull them out whenever you're ready. And so for the crust, I'm adding salt, pepper, garlic powder, and some herb seasoning. I just kind of go for it here. I don't really measure or anything. I cook the crust for 10 minutes at 450 in the oven before adding the toppings. And I'm also stretching and folding another dough. I had just gotten home from, like I said, a really fun day out all day. And then the kids kind of fell asleep. I took a little nap before dinner. And so I was just trying to crank out as much cooking as I could. So I'm also stretching and folding a bread dough there. For the chicken, I'm also adding some lemon slices and more chunks of butter to the skillet. Now, once the chicken is 90% cooked, so basically browned on each side, or fully cooked, but the point is browned, and you are going to return it to the skillet, so if it's not fully cooked, it's okay. But if they're browned, you're going to remove the chicken breasts. I'm going to scrape up the little bits on the cast iron with a fork, add a little bit of bone broth, and this is gonna make a nice kind of sauce that the chicken's gonna then sit in. I just love these flavors. I added some fresh herbs, sage, rosemary, and thyme. I don't actually have those in my garden yet, but I'm buying them from the store. So, you know, it's like the grocery store always gets the garden food first because they're buying it from places that have the greenhouses. And then I grow it later in the summertime. But the grocery store is finally getting, you know, their fruit back and their herbs. So I'm really excited about that. I think my daughter or somebody needed me, and I neglected this pizza dough a couple minutes too long. So it's a little bit burnt, but that's totally fine. I'm just using an Italian herb pasta sauce for the red sauce, and then a whole bunch of cheese on top. And I like to add herbs to this pizza too, especially basil. I wish I had fresh basil. I actually don't have that right now, so I have dried basil. And then I've got, I think I added some thyme as well. And the herbed margherita pizza was just perfect. Chicken's done, potatoes done. We are ready to eat now. Okay, all done. So I returned the chicken to the skillet and let it just sit on warm there. The pizza was finished, and then I worked on the rest of the meal. So I cut up some potatoes and roasted those in the oven. Just drizzled them with avocado oil, sprinkled them with seasoning. Very easy filler part of the meal here. And then I also made asparagus, roasted those in the oven at 375 for about 20 minutes. And I have been snacking on the asparagus, so that's why there's not many on that tray. I'm definitely hungry as I'm watching this because it's before dinner when I'm filming this voiceover. But this turned out incredible. I do have the recipe for the pizza on the blog, theduvallhomestead.com. You can just type in sourdough pizza. There's actually several pizza recipes on the blog. But this ended up being a great spring, early summer lunch for the whole family. I want to take a quick break from today's video to thank the sponsor, which is Nakano Knives. Nakano is a Japanese knife company that makes affordable, high-quality handcrafted knives from Japan. Every good cook needs a good chef's knife. I find that one good knife can meet 95% of my kitchen needs, and I've been using the Nakano knife for probably almost a year now. It's been a really long time, and it is still my favorite knife. And I've gifted it to my grandmother, and she will text me and say, I'm cooking dinner for my friends tonight and I'm using the knife and it's great. And she said that she cooks more because of the knife, because I guess apparently she did not have good knives before. So it just feels really good to use a high quality knife. We have the Mito Santoko knife, which is handmade in Japan by craftsmen using ancient Japanese crafting techniques. The handle is made of natural olive wood and the blade is made of high carbon stainless steel. This is a great all-purpose knife for precision slicing, chopping. It is the only knife that I use other than my serrated knife or bread knife for cutting sourdough loaves. If you want to check out Nakano knives, be sure to use the link and the discount code in the description below. It will just make your life easier in the kitchen as you're preparing meals from scratch every day for your family when you get to use a high quality knife like the ones from Nakano at an affordable price. The next day, I'm preparing lunch now. and this was before I had grocery shopped, so I was really low on food. So I went and grabbed some canned salmon, and I had some homemade mayonnaise in the fridge that needed to be used up because it only lasts about a week. And I add that to the canned salmon. I also have some bread left over. I've got a loaf of sourdough bread and a loaf of rye bread. I'm gonna be making salmon melts. But first, I have a hungry baby, and so I'm juggling a couple different things in this video because he was just getting hungry. He's 8 months old now, and he's growing and he's needy. So I'm trying to make sure that he is happy while I am also cooking the lunch for my husband and I. I just cut up some pasta for him, and then I'll be giving him some of the salmon. He loves salmon. Both him and my first baby have always loved canned salmon. As I am preheating the oven, I'm shredding the cheese, and I'm gonna line a baking tray with parchment paper, put down my bread, which I'm gonna toast first. This is important because it gives the bread a nice crispy texture on the bottom before you go and melt the cheese on it. So if I forgot to mention this earlier, the mixture is just canned salmon and mayonnaise. Now, if you have relish, it's really good to add the relish in there too, but I didn't. We only have sliced pickles, so I'm gonna do a top layer of the salmon mixture and then another layer of cheese, and then the top will be some pickles. I roasted that in the oven, and these came out delicious as always. And I am going to be writing these up for my blog because they're just a staple at our house, and I want to share them with other people too. I think it is the warmer weather, but I'm looking forward to hosting more, whether it's kids coming over that are friends with our kids, or adults that are friends with us, or both, even better if it's both, or just family. I love having people over. My mom was really instrumental in teaching me how to be a host. I remember when I was a kid growing up, we would watch Martha Stewart. We would always be watching cooking shows. And back in that day on Food Network, they always had cooking shows where they talked about hosting. And they would talk about what drinks to make, what tablecloths to use, and the flowers on the table. And all of that just really is ingrained in me. And so how I like to host at my house is I like to have a certain type of music on. I feel like music sets a really good ambiance. I love to light some candles. I love to have fresh flowers around, and of course, a relatively clean house. I think making people feel welcome when they first come in is so special. Offering them something to eat or drink and having food out ready for them is just wonderful. And I actually feel this way about my own family as well as other people. I don't like when my family comes down to eat a meal or wakes up or something like that and the house is a mess and I'm not ready for them. Ideally, I would be ready and we would have a nice music song or track playing in the background. I like to change the music based on the type of day or activity we're having or doing, like classical music if we're having some quiet or study time, or maybe some country music if it's, Friday night and we're getting ready to eat dinner. And I just feel like it's so important to foster and cultivate and pay attention to the atmosphere in your home, whether it's just for your significant other or your kids or lots of people. Don't let that go neglected. It's just as important as decorating your home, even if it's as simple as fresh flowers on the table and a tablecloth. Or maybe it's just cleaning the shower out or the countertop. All of that contributes to the atmosphere in your home and creates a really nice environment. If you've ever heard the phrase, people don't remember what you said or what you did, they remember how you made them feel, I think that's really relevant here. I can tell you that my parents made our home super welcoming and just a really happy place to be. And I don't remember every meal that was on the table per se, or every piece of decoration that was there. I mean, I remember some, but I remember how I felt when I was in their house. And so that's the kind of feeling that I want to grow and encourage in our house. So anyway, what I'm making right now are strawberry sourdough discard einkorn muffins. I know that's a mouthful. I had some unexpected free time this day, and I just could not wait to make something with strawberries because they are finally coming in season. Soon we will be able to go pick fresh berries from our local farms, But for now, like I was saying earlier, at least the grocery stores are stocked with them. While my muffins are baking, I'm gonna be making some homemade baby food. For both my babies, I have started giving them solid foods around 6 months old. My first baby did not show an interest in solid foods nearly as much as my current baby does. And I think part of that is my confidence in solid foods. I didn't really know how to feed a baby when I had my first, but now that I do, having a second one is a lot easier. My way of feeding babies is I just cut food up really, really, really small. Whatever we're eating, whether it's a tortilla, I just rip it up, I mince it in my fingers, whether it's ground meat, ground beef. Now, if it's got a seasoning on it that's really strong and they're making a face when I give it to them, obviously I'll rinse that seasoning off. But I'll mince up the food, bread, pasta, meat, fish, vegetables. I would say probably 90% of our food can be smushed up small enough to give to a baby. It's messy, but I really think that it cultivates a good palate for them, and they eventually will get, bigger pieces of the food, and then they'll start eating exactly what we're eating, which is perfectly, that's ideal. However, there are some times when the baby needs food sooner than the food is ready, and I do like to have a little bit of homemade baby food on hand. I am making a mixture of beef liver, some ground venison, and apple. And I tried to make it with an immersion blender, but it was making a big mess, so I put it in the smoothie maker. I thought this sounded gross. I've never tried to blend up meat before, but my mom actually said that that's what she used to feed my brother and I. And Matthew seemed like he thought it was fine. He didn't make a face when he ate it, so I'm gonna go ahead and save this for later. And I also have a mixture of butternut squash, some bone broth and herbs, and cheese, and he does like that one. I actually have a couple of baby food recipes on the blog, theduvallhomestead.com. There's a category called toddler and baby food. You can always go there and look at what I've made for my kids. But I like to put them in the freezer, and that way it's ready to go if they are hungry and we don't have any other food ready yet. For this meal, he was eating a lot of really easy food because we had avocado and meat and tortillas, and all of that could be easily made for him. So this is just my basic taco recipe: ground meat, avocados, cheese, and salsa. Well, thank you so much for joining me in this What We Eat in a Week video. I hope you got some inspiration to cook some fresh spring food. If you're brand new to my channel, please hit that subscribe button. Every week I post a new video on farm-to-table recipes and homemade natural living. Be sure to check out Nakano Knives for all of your kitchen cutting needs, and use the code Duvall Homestead for a discount at checkout. Thank you so much for stopping by the Duvall Homestead.